So how about this? How about the fact that quietly Lamar Jackson was recruiting Odell Beckham this whole time while Odell was talking to a number of teams, my New York Jets included. He was recruiting him. Come here, come here, come here. The other guy that helped recruit him, I got to believe, is also the new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. About a month and a half ago now, Todd Monken, just to refresh your memory, was asked about what it was like when he was the OC in Cleveland for Odell Beckham. Yeah, and that's the key there. Plus, look at the numbers. He had over 1,000 yards. That's the last time he's had a 1,000-yard season. The touchdowns weren't up, and he only had 74 catches. I say only, recognizing that my guy Baker Mayfield was his quarterback, right? So the point is, there's familiarity. You've got a pass-happy offensive coordinator. You've got a guy that he knows well who now becomes the number one wide receiver. You could argue he was the number two there in Cleveland. He's going to get the ball. Now, you made the point yesterday, he may not be the breakaway guy like Tyreek Hill is now, but the man knows how to run routes, and he's going to get open.
Absolutely, and that's what you want. You talk about when you have a guy like Odell Beckham Jr., like, aside from injury, he's been productive when he's been healthy. Everywhere he's been productive. He would have arguably been the Super Bowl MVP had he not gotten injured. He has relationships. Like, when you have him as your number 2 or number 3 option, like, that is a win-win-win situation. That's what they have in Baltimore. Rashad Bateman's probably going to be your number 1 guy. Odell Beckham Jr. can fill that void as your number 2 guy. You got Nelson Aguilar, who's going to be more of your deep threat guy.
He's only the guy that's got legitimate career numbers.
Absolutely,
right.
But you have depth. You're acquiring depth. You're acquiring experience. You're acquiring what Todd Monken just said, an opportunity to have a guy who has experience in making plays in clutch moments with a quarterback who we know who's a game changer just by what we've seen over the course of his career without a true number one receiver outside of Mark Andrews.
Here's the other thing that happens, and whether you guys like it or not, the reality of Odell Beckham Jr. is that guys want to play with him. He's beloved amongst active NFL players. He's a rare breed where it's a lot of look at me, look at me, look at me, but guys adore him. He's a gym rat. No one's ever questioned his work ethic. And now, if you've got Lamar Jackson on board, and very clearly is on board, the guys are publicly hanging out at a nightclub with cameras on them. So that's a statement from Lamar without making a statement that I'm all in. This is my guy. I'm the Ravens starting quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be released outright by the Arizona Cardinals because his contract's too big for anybody to trade for him. And everybody knows the Cardinals have to let him go. So if you're a team that wants him, you can just swoop in and get him without having to make a trade for him, right? And getting him at a much better number. If he goes there, and to me it makes a lot of sense for him to go there, I think the Ravens are now a good destination for a wide receiver like that. Could you imagine Lamar Jackson? I got Hopkins wide left. I got Odell in the slot. I got Aguilar or Bateman. I've got a great passing offense. All of a sudden, I went from the most run-heavy offense in all of football, counting on 3rd and longs for my guy to make a play, and now I've got, look to my left, all-world wide receiver. Look to my right, all-world wide receiver. And depth, that offense becomes awesome overnight. That's a 5,000-yard passing offense.
And this is why I said it was more important that this happened for Lamar than anyone, because the narrative had been, well, receivers really good receivers don't really want to go and play with Lamar because he's a run-first guy.
Right.
But he's never had in his national football career, like outside of Hollywood Brown, who in my opinion, number 1 guy, he's a good, decent talent, but he's the only guy on that list there that has gone over 1,000 yards.
Right.
And again, we're not showing Mark Andrews because he's always been that guy.
And he's a tight end anyway.
And he's a tight end. But you now add a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. who signs up and says, you know what, I'm going to Baltimore. like you just said, it becomes an attractive destination for other receivers.
There are not a lot of guys left, right?
Yes.
So, and there's not, I've been told, I am not a draft expert. I will never claim to be, that this is not a great draft for wide receivers. There's not a lot of guys that are thought of as first-round talent. Maybe that's accurate. I honestly don't know. But I know when I look at that board, leave it up there, please, guys, that's embarrassing. You don't have a single wide receiver in the last 5 years with 10 touchdowns. You only have a single year with a guy over 800 yards, let alone getting to 1,000 yards, right? And that, to me, also shows you the brilliance of Lamar Jackson as a player. He's playing with one arm tied behind his back. He doesn't have or hasn't had that go-to guy to win a game. Now he's got one. He may have two. And if you're a AFC North team and you're looking at the prospects of Hopkins going there to join Odell Beckham and Lamar Jackson, you're put on notice. Because this team made the playoffs last year, and he didn't play the last 5 games because of the PCL injury. Healthy Lamar Jackson, new offensive coordinator, and weapons on the outside. Yikes. Yeah. That's trouble.
This could not be a better situation for the Baltimore Ravens. Why? Because we're not even talking about Lamar's contract.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about his contract
because now we just assume it's going to get done.
Exactly. The fact that OBJ has committed and signed.
Now, OBJ's got a 1-year deal.
He absolutely.
Which is even more reason if I'm Lamar Jackson, I'm going to play for $32 million. I'll be committed long-term when you're committed long-term.
Exactly.
Even Hopkins comes in. He ain't getting more than a 1-year deal because of his age, right? Mm-hmm. This could be like what the Jets are trying to do with Aaron Rodgers and Lazard, and they're, flirting, obviously, with Lamar, with OBJ as well. I got 1 year. I'm throwing all my chips on the table. I want to win right now.
Yep.
If Baltimore makes the move, that makes sense to me. Hopkins. Their defense is already pretty good. That's their problem. You hear me, Cincinnati? I don't know why I don't like Cincinnati, but the people.
It's very odd.
A bunch of snowflakes there that have angered me.
Well,
so now I dislike everything about Cincinnati.
You don't like teams that win.
Yeah, that seems to be an issue.
That's not true.
That's not true. That's one more team that you're.
That's not true at all.
Try
to fight.
What happened?
What AFC team do you root for other than the Jets? I said a team that wins.
Well, the AFC East teams are obviously.
Oh, out. Greg, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry that I said that. Are you okay?
Why do you hurt me so much? Look, I'm a Jet fan. What do you want me to do? Screw you, Cincinnati. Yeah. You got chili with spaghetti in it. You guys think you invented something cool. All right. Speaking of OBJ going to Baltimore and the panic that's setting in other AFC teams, I've put together the top 5 teams that are negatively impacted by OBJ.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think this is a good list. This
one.
This is a winner.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Because he's never has the Bengals on any of his top 5 lists.
Oh, man, they're going to be high.
But, however, I just have this feeling.
A suspicion.
Well,
that the Bengals may show up.
Why don't we take a look, shall we?
Let's do that.
These are the top 5 teams negatively impacted by the Ravens signing Odell Beckham Jr.
Okay.
Number 5, Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
I still don't know why people don't want to go play for Kansas City. They've got the best quarterback, the most creative coach in all of football, and they're money good to go to the AFC Championship game every single year. So I think this hurts Kansas City a bit, because it's another AFC team getting an all-world talent. They don't have wide receivers. They have Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. I obviously have Kelsey there, but I don't know why Kansas City's not in the market for big wide receivers. I don't get that.
Well, because they're not going to pay them that much because you have been able to make it with a guy like Patrick Mahomes with accessory pieces that aren't big-name guys.
All right, number 4 on my list, top 5 teams negatively impacted by the Ravens signing OBJ. It's going to be a surprise one, but it goes back to earlier in the show. The Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
To me, the Dallas Cowboys need more depth at wide receiver. I need an explosive guy to guarantee that CeeDee Lamb gets more man-to-man coverage. Odell Beckham would have done that for the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas flirted with him all year last year. Couldn't get a deal done, I imagine, because of the money. and now he goes, granted, to an AFC team. But the Dallas Cowboys get hurt by this because I thought OBJ and the Cowboys would have made them arguably the best offense in the NFC East. You give me that? And I said it with respect to Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith.
You're saying OBJ over Brandon Cooks.
Well, no, they already got Brandon Cooks. If you add OBJ to that, I think depth-wise, that's a big move for the Cowboys. I think him not going there hurts them. Yay?
I'll give you that, yeah.
Yes, 2 for 2. All right, number 3, obviously, in the division, Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, having Pittsburgh now, which has a questionable offense itself, again, why doesn't Pittsburgh have an interest in Odell Beckham Jr.? They have to face him twice a year now, every year.
They got some young stuff.
They do. They also have an unproven second-year quarterback. And I think this obviously hurts Pittsburgh because they got to play Baltimore twice. It's obvious, right?
Makes sense.
All right. The second team most damaged or negatively impacted by the signing of OBJ, I own it, my Jets. Because Odell Beckham was supposed to be a Jet.
Yes, he was.
Matter of fact, he even called the Jets, as the story goes, and said, look, here's the offer. If you match it, I'll play for you. That's the story that's out there, at least. But not getting Odell Beckham now calls into question, do we also lose Aaron Rodgers? Not that they're connected at the hip.
So how would that not make the Jets the number
one team on this list?
Number 2.
They should be number 1.
How would that not make
But they're
them
not number 2.
one?
Well, they're number 2. Because if they still get Aaron Rodgers, they're still going to be a badass football team.
But if they don't,
if they don't, then I'll revise the list.
Okay.
But they didn't lose Aaron Rodgers yet.
They don't have Aaron Rodgers. You can't lose what you don't have.
Listen, they're still in the driver's seat to get Aaron Rodgers. They just haven't gotten the deal done yet.
But they were trying to acquire OBJ.
Yes, OBJ was supposed to come with Aaron Rodgers. Yes, and by the way, to be clear, Odell Beckham Jr. called the Jets up. The Jets said no to him because of the contract. It's not like they lost him. They kicked him out. They said, we're good. You go to Baltimore. Stupid. But that's what they did, right? Which brings us to number 1. The number 1 team most negatively affected
Cleveland?
Texans?
By OBJ signing with Baltimore. Not Cleveland. They suck. Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
The window, my friends,
Didn't see that coming.
has been shut.
It has not been shut.
Yes, you barely beat Baltimore in the playoffs
They beat 'em.
last year with Huntley and no wide receivers. Now you get Lamar Jackson, OBJ, and maybe Hopkins. Woohoo! That game's played in Baltimore this year, and it's the Ravens who win. How about that?
We will see.
Hard to argue the list, though. Is that not fair?
I mean, Jets should be number 1.
But the Jets are still possibly going to get Aaron Rodgers.
Possibly, yeah.
Now, if losing Odell or saying no to Odell somehow impacts getting Aaron Rodgers, you have my word. I will revise this list and make the Jets number 1. But right now, if you're a Cincinnati Bengal fan, you belong right there, number 1. Your thoughts of dominating the division for a decade just went out the window. Still going to be very good. Still going to make the playoffs as a wild card team. Have to win a couple road playoff games, which you're very good at doing. But the dominance is a wrap.
I'm not saying that the Bengals aren't impacted.
Oh,
They obviously
significantly impacted.
They are.
I mean, Cincinnati Bengals don't get past a wild card game.
They
with
are
that.
impacted. However, earlier in the show, I made a mention of Amari Cooper being the reason why the Dallas Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl.
Right, which is crazy talk.
But you're literally making my point because Odell Beckham signing with the Ravens have them basically scaring every team in the AFC.
Yeah, here's the point you missed, which is why I'm here.
What's the point?
Odell Beckham Jr. going to Baltimore brings Lamar Jackson back to Baltimore.
Okay.
It's not like, ooh, Odell Beckham's the missing piece to a Super Bowl. It's, hey, Odell Beckham convinced Lamar Jackson, I'm playing football in Baltimore. You're looking at it reverse.
But you're also
You have it upside down.
But you're also treating it as if they already got D-Hop, which they don't have D-Hop.
I'm the only guy telling you they're going to get D-Hop.
Yeah.
Maybe I know some things. I don't know. Maybe I don't. Maybe I just made it up.
Or maybe somebody sitting right here kind of said it yesterday.
Did you? Yeah. Well, that would have been good. You should have told me. I wouldn't have taken it from you. Hey there. Thank you so much for watching The Carton Show. You can subscribe right here to get all the latest bits and segments from the show. And by the way, while you're at it, we have a lot of great shows on FS1, so check them out too.